Connor Jackson and the Memory Thieves by me, Nick B. Ponter. Let's tell you all about it. Connor Jackson lives a quiet life in Lower Molehampton. He lives in the house he was born and brought up in, and apart from his secretive job as a civil servant, he pretty much lives an ordinary life. That is until one morning when Connor is woken up by something, so he decides to investigate. He notices a massive molehill in the middle of his back garden. Now, molehills have always been a feature in Lower Molehampton, but there appears to be more than ever now, and this one is huge. Upon closer inspection of this mountain molehill, which has appeared during the night, Connor discovers a glass jar sitting in the center of the mound. Thinking nothing more than this being a strange occurrence, Connor hides the jar away and forgets about it altogether. That is, until a few months later, when late one evening, Connor is ambushed in his home by two sets of intruders. Attempting to flee, he is eventually captured. Fearing for his life and not knowing what these kidnappers want, Connor is thrown into a world which he never would have expected, into a world where he discovers the truth about life and death.
Hello friends, welcome to ExplorED Talk. I guess you are slowly becoming curious about the world of Connor Jackson. Today our guest is none other than Nick B. Ponter, the creator of Connor Jackson. Let us explore his interesting journey as a storyteller and story reader. Hello Nick, welcome to the ExplorED Talk. Yeah, so you were born near Windsor, that historic market town on the River Thames in England, and your career started as a carpenter, as we know, and then you joined army and also foreign service. So we are curious to know how your childhood and career experiences inspired you to be an author.
Yeah, a very good question. Thank you very much for having me here. It's a wonderful experience. Yeah, I was born just outside Windsor, near London. As most of you will probably know, it's the home of the royal family. Nice big castle, if you've ever been there. My childhood definitely influenced my storytelling and becoming an author, probably because my parents read to me a lot. And I think if you read to your kids, then it certainly influences them in their later life. I didn't know I would become an author at that stage, but I was immensely interested in books and I was an avid reader. Then, of course, as you said, I became a carpenter. I joined the army. I traveled the world, foreign service. I'm now a business English teacher. I've actually done quite a lot. And I think that my experiences of doing lots of different things and traveling around has certainly influenced my storytelling.
So what was an early indicator for your interest in writing?
When I was in school in my last years, I actually won a prize for English literature. I didn't know at the time what it would turn out to me, but my teachers obviously saw something in me which I didn't recognize at the time. My author career came much later in life, but that certainly was I would say, the starting point, but unknown to me. And then some years in between of doing lots of different things. And then suddenly, English prize, let's do something about it.
Great, great. And you are a lucky one because your parents also inspired you in reading. So who are the other people who inspired you to be an author?
Well, it has to be the author of some of the books I read. I think we all have our favorite books, our favorite childhood books, which we really are inspired by and think, wow, I would like to read like that, or write like that. Roald Dahl. Certainly the books like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory really inspired me. So the inspiration definitely came from other authors, and in particular Roald Dahl. I mean, there are many other ones as well. I didn't only read fantasy, I also read a lot of action and thrillers, Tom Clancy, Alistair MacLean. I really like that style as well.
Great. But now, after becoming an author, how do you feel being an author?
It's an amazing feeling. first coming up with an idea to write and then think, oh, am I just doing it as a hobby? Will I get published? And the answers to those are yes, yes. The coolest thing about being an author is doing things like this now, and in particular, reading to people. Because I think at the end of the journey is you write a book, you have it published, you want to tell the story. And it's so cool coming live on screen into classrooms around the world and reading not only to children, but to adults as well. And that, I would say, is the coolest part of being an author.
So after being an author, how did you choose your niche as an author or a storyteller?
Fantasy. It wasn't what I originally wanted to write. I actually wanted to write like a thriller, like a spy thriller. And I thought, and I thought, and I thought, and I couldn't think of anything until one day I was in my back garden, and my garden was destroyed by molehills and all of the other gardens around it. And I thought to myself, what are these moles doing? And you can see it on my book. You've got lots of little moles digging away in the garden. And I thought, they must have a secret world below the ground. And then the idea just came to me out of the blue. I should write a fantasy story about the secret world of moles. And then I spent the next year brainstorming, daydreaming, note-taking, planning, until I realized I had enough material not only for one book, but 4 books.
Now we can understand what gave you the idea for writing about Corner Jackson. So how many years did it take you to write about Corner Jackson?
From the initial idea of sitting in my garden to having the book in my hand was actually about 7 years. And you might think, well, that takes a long time to write a book, but I actually do have a job as well. So I wrote it in batches. If I was to break it down, I would say 1 year was spent, at least 1 year, note-taking, brainstorming, daydreaming, 4 years of writing, 2 years of polishing, changing, editing, submission. And once you submit a book and it's accepted by a publisher, it takes about another year. So in total, the pure writing time was 4 from the 7.
Wow, it's a long journey with Corner Jackson.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. So after writing, so how long did it take to publish?
It was in, I think, July 2019. I decided I'm ready. And I researched how to submit a book to publishers, and I submitted my book to a few publishers. And I was expecting what you read about, rejection, rejection, rejection. Actually, quite the opposite. I received 4 offers, and I decided, okay, I'll go for Pegasus. And thank you very much, Pegasus, for offering me the opportunity. And from signing the contract to the book physically being in my hand was just under 1 year.
Okay, so and then did you change anything in the next version, or are you continuing with the first version only?
No, I'm actually book number 2, Corner Jackson and the Quest for Azov, which is the follow-on book, is complete. I'm still doing what you just suggested, changing things and going around and things. I haven't submitted it yet, but that will come soon. And I've already started note-taking for book number 3. So I'm at a very advanced stage, but I think my second book, The Quest for Azov, which is direct follow-on, will be submitted at hopefully the beginning of next year. But did I change anything from the first book? No, definitely not.
Okay, great. So we'll be waiting for the next story about Corner Jackson.
The journey's not over, it carries on.
So once you mentioned that you prefer pen and paper over digital tools. So what is the motivation behind this preference?
When I first started writing, I experimented in different ways. I started writing by hand with a traditional pen. Then for some parts, I changed to my laptop and did it directly from my head to my laptop. Then I went back to my pen. So I experimented in different ways. And for me, most clearly, writing by hand was better. I found that when I wrote directly on my laptop, it didn't flow. It was robotic. There was less feeling in it. And I made too many mistakes. When I write by hand, I make very few mistakes and it flows, and I write full sentences just like we're speaking at the moment. And I just find I'm much more creative, and my writing style is much better, and it's more natural. It's an authentic writing style because I decided to write in the first person. So I am Connor Jackson basically in the book, and the book is narrated from Connor Jackson's perspective, so in the first person. And I found that was a very nice style to write because I just imagined, well, it's me speaking basically, and I wanted the reader to have the feeling that I'm reading it to them.
This is an interesting point. I think many aspiring authors or writers, they will be inspired with this feedback about pen and paper over digital tool.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's a personal thing. If people can produce their work directly from their head onto a computer, absolutely fine. For me, not. And also, it gave me the advantage of traveling around and writing in places where I didn't have a cable, a power or things like that. So I could actually take my notebook anywhere at all and just write.
Yeah. So yeah. It reminded me that you love traveling and outdoor activities. So how did your travels and time spent with nature shape you as an author?
Very much so. I've always loved the nature since being a young kid, and still so today. I love camping. I like canoeing. I like hiking. Anything to do with outside and traveling. And I find that when I'm in that environment, it's the best place for me to write. Which is one of the reasons why it took me 7 years, because I went away for like 1 week at a time camping and wrote my book in a tent. I went to the Alps, so the area of Italy, Austria, Germany, and sat halfway up a mountain on a bench writing my book. So I find that traveling and being away, I just get completely lost in my own thoughts, and it doesn't matter who's around me, as long as I don't know them and I'm by myself. That's okay. I can completely immerse myself in the world of Connor Jackson.
You lived in Asia for 6 years and worked with the British Foreign Office here. So how did art, culture, literature, and culinary heritage of Asia influence you?
A lot. I would say, there are many times in your life which I would call your formative years, which influence you more than anything else. And I would say the 6 years I spent 2 years in Bangladesh and 4 years in Pakistan. They immensely affected my character and put me in a completely different direction. I think subconsciously it affected my writing style and what I write about. And there are bits of my experiences in the book coming out through Connor Jackson. Art and culture, I would say I'm not so much into art in the traditional sense or music. That I'm a heavy metal man and I like traveling. But for me, traveling and culture, food, those were the main areas. Language, which what really interested me. Finding out how people tick, the behavior of people, the cultural differences. And that's where really living in the countries like Bangladesh and Pakistan and traveling around really did affect me and influenced me in a positive way. I loved it. And of course, I went to India as well. I spent 1 week in Mumbai, which was an amazing experience.
So you also narrated your own audiobook. It's an interesting thing that an author, he himself is narrating his own audiobook. So how different was the role of a narrator from an author?
Completely different. And I found out again, there was something in life I could do, which I didn't know before. I didn't know I could write a book and think of stories. I did it. And then I've done a lot of online readings in the last 2 years. And it was noticed that I actually noticed myself that I really put all my passion and my feeling, and I could read. Lots of people commented on it and said, "Hey, Nick, you should do more." And then I was offered the opportunity by my publisher and Audible to narrate my own book. Just because you're the author doesn't give you the right to do it. You have to audition for it. And I decided to do it. And it was very, very different. And it was really enjoyable, but it was hard work as well, because I don't have my own studio. So I made my own studio, the advantage of being a carpenter. And I recorded it at home, and it took me about 4 months. And there was a lot of trial and error because I hadn't done it before. Speed, positioning, technical quality. I was responsible for everything, not only the audio recording, the technical side, but the editing afterwards until I got a final product. And I would say if I had about 2 hours of audio, it was about 6 to 7 hours of work and editing to cut it down and get the final version of only one chapter. So in total, I didn't really keep account, but I think about 100 hours of work. But I'm glad I did it. It was really good fun. And I found out something about myself I didn't know. I can narrate. I can tell stories.
Thank you, Nick, for being our guest and sharing your wonderful story. So, I have some good news to share with our audience. ExplorED is coming up with a series of workshops with me where he will share his experiences from ideation a book to worldwide online ratings and also publishing tips. The first workshop of this series will be on the art of story reading. Please visit our website www.exploredhub.com for more information. Thank you.
Thank you as well for having me.